to my home. This is where I cook all the time and I tell you all about the wonderful foods I make. And we're going to make stir fry today. And so I'm going to step over here and show you some of the wonderful vegetables that are available to stir fry. And so first we've got celery. And celery is one of the vegetables that is wonderful for stir fry because it's so crunchy and delicious, but it's also extremely dirty. And so if you look at this, it's very dirty. And so in order to wash celery, you're going to want to not just wash the head all the way underwater, you actually have to separate each stalk and then pull it out and then make sure you actually scrub it with your fingers in order to get it clean. And you're also going to want to wash it, or cut it thinly because celery takes a while to cook. And you'll discard the leaves here because they're not necessary and the ends are not necessary. And so celery is one thing you might consider adding to your stir fry. Another food that students most often have not tried is bok choy, and it is similar to celery, but it's not stringy at all, and it has a nice texture. And so you might think about trying bok choy. If you like celery but you don't like that stringiness and you don't like that strong celery taste, this is very, very mild. Also, there's mushrooms, and if you choose to use mushrooms, make sure you wash them well. Mushrooms are nice because they add kind of an earthy flavor to your stir fry. Mushrooms cook pretty rapidly, but you still want to slice them thinly so they're attractive in the dish. And they're one of those vegetables I'll be teaching you a little bit later that you add vegetables at different times in stir fry, and this is one that you'll add later on toward the end of cooking. We've got carrots here, and carrots are one of those vegetables that people are a little bit confused about sometimes. We all know that they have vitamin A and they're good for your eyes, but one of the things when people go to prepare them for stir fry is that they forget to peel them, and without peeling, they taste bitter. And so it's really important to use your vegetable peeler and get all the skin off of it. It will taste much better, as will if you cut off both of the ends. And then you can go ahead and slice it thinly so that it will cook rapidly, because it's another vegetable that takes a long time to cook. And long time meaning like 5 minutes, which isn't very long for stir fry, that's a long time. Why don't we skip over to the asparagus here? And asparagus is one that is another one that has to be washed really well because it's got all of these little pockets in the stems, and they have to be cleaned very well, and you actually have to swish them underwater and rub them on the stems in order to get them so that they are all the way clean. And one of the things about asparagus is that the stems have the bottom part the top is very tender, and the bottom, it's called woody when it's tough, and you bite it and it just doesn't feel good in your mouth, and it really doesn't taste good either. And so the best way to find out the part that is not woody is just to try to break off the bottom of the asparagus. And if you do that, you'll see that I'm not just being lame and not being able to break it. It really doesn't break until you get up a little bit farther. And so that's the very easiest way to find out the best part of the asparagus. The part that's woody, you just dispose of. The rest is the perfect part to use in your stir fry, and then it will be cut up. Next we come to zucchini, and either you like it or you hate it. If you like zucchini, then you just wash it real well and slice it for your dish. And some of these other things are crisp in your stir fry. This is going to be soft. So sometimes people like a variety of textures, and if you like that variety of texture, that would be nice. Next we have Napa cabbage. Some people call it Savoy. They're the same thing. And some people like regular cabbage, and you can buy it in the head or you can buy it already chopped up. If you like coleslaw mix, wonderful. You can just use coleslaw mix because it's already cut up and it turns out really well. However, if you don't like the strong flavor of cabbage, then you might consider using Napa cabbage because it has a little bit rougher texture than lettuce does, but yet it really turns out nice in stir fry because it doesn't have that cruciferous taste. Coleslaw is one of our cruciferous vegetables, and so it's got that kind of acidic taste, and you won't find that with this vegetable. Snap peas are one of my favorite, and they're nice because they add a sweetness to your dish. And if you want to use snap peas, the main thing you need to know about preparing snap peas, the reason they call them that is because you actually snap off the ends, and they've got strings on them, and so it has a tiny string that comes off when you snap off both ends. And if you don't snap off the ends, then they're going to be tough. And it's not quite as pretty to snap off the ends. You can use a knife instead if you want, but you do need to cut off the ends. And they will add a wonderful level of sweetness to your dish. And so it's nice when you have a little sweet, a little tangy, a little sour. It makes your dish a little bit more complex than if you just have, you know, a couple of flavors. Next we have peppers, and I don't have any green peppers at my home today, but by the way, this is what I have at home. Crazy, isn't it? Anyway, these are the peppers that I have here, and the very best time to buy peppers is August and September when they're in season. And so you'll see that these are beautiful peppers because they don't have any soft spots. They're very firm all around, and that's what you're looking for when you buy a pepper, is that firmness all around. There shouldn't be any black spots at all. And with peppers, you're just going to slice them into thin pieces. When you get into the inside, you'll find little seeds. The seeds can be thrown away, and inside there's also a white pith, is what it's called. And you'll see the white stuff. The white stuff all needs to come out and just be thrown away. And so there's also green peppers available. Spinach is wonderful for your stir fry, and it's one of those things that's going to be thrown in at the very end because it cooks so fast. And you may think, wow, this is a bin from Costco, so I don't have to even wash that because it's pre-washed. Even though it's pre-washed, you probably have heard that there have been some E. coli scares from pre-washed produce. And so the very best idea is, even though it's been pre-washed, wash it anyway, even though it looks wonderful, just to make sure that because you can't see E. coli. E. coli comes from feces, and you're not going to be able to see the feces on this, and of course we're thinking that it doesn't have that, but how do we know for sure? But if you just rinse it really well, it will be perfectly healthy. And look at how fresh this is. You can tell that spinach is fresh if it's got all these wonderful ridges. There's nothing slimy about it, and it's smooth. If there's anything that looks slimy at all, throw the lettuce away. The spinach away, because it's just not worth eating. Spinach should never be slimy. The other vegetable that people sometimes have trouble picking out is broccoli. And broccoli is great for your stir fry too. And you're actually going to, came this size in a bag, and I will be cutting it smaller because I want it to cook fast. And the smaller you cut broccoli, the faster it'll cook, and that's true for most vegetables. And these are just too big of a piece of broccoli. When you cut vegetables for stir fry, you want small bite-sized pieces so that it doesn't overwhelm the mouth. And a person shouldn't have to cut any of the vegetables themselves when they're eating any vegetable in stir fry. And so I wanted to talk about how to tell if broccoli is fresh or not. One of the things to look at is the heads of broccoli and the flowers. These are all little tiny flowers, and you'll notice that they're all closed up. And you probably have never looked at broccoli and said, gosh, they're open or they're closed. But as they open, they turn kind of yellow, and actually this one is starting to age, and so if the sides of it will just keep, this one's healthy, is fresher than this one because you can see the yellow of as the flowers are starting to open. And so it still is, the flowers on top are still fresh, and it's fine. But if you come to the store and you see broccoli with yellow stuff on top, that tells you that it's old broccoli. If you look at the stems, you'll probably see some black slimy stuff too. And it may be just a little bit, but your broccoli is not going to taste very good if it's got the yellow. And so the ones that have the yellow, I won't be using. The other things that I have up here, there's a couple more things. And I just happened to cook corn on the cob last night and save the kernels. And I don't think I've ever used corn on the cob, but stir fry. But if you love corn and you've got it around, why not use it? It would be fine. One thing I didn't set out is we always have pineapple in stir fry, canned pineapple, or fresh, and it's delicious. And then we're going to, instead of Asian noodles, which are pretty expensive to use, and also there's a low level of success rate because they cook like instantaneously. And so by the time you've got them hot, they turn out really mushy. We're going to use spaghetti that's already been cooked. And whole wheat spaghetti is better for you than the Asian noodles because they have fiber. And it's also, it's not going to get mushy in your stir fry the way Asian noodles do. And so I think that you will be happier with that. And at home, if you decide to use that, it's about a fourth the cost. So that's a great advantage. And then you could have the option of cooking with quinoa. And quinoa is instead of rice if you want. You can put that under your stir fry in order to see it. And quinoa is something different. You probably have never seen it before, but it has these little tiny curlicues around every single grain. So it's really a different kind of grain. It's an ancient one, very high in protein, and it doesn't have a lot of flavor, but if you cook it in broth, then it has more flavor. For your lab, we'll be having a pot of brown rice ready, and we'll in a rice cooker, and we'll also have a pot of white rice for your whichever kind you like. And so we'll have those all ready for you. You don't have to worry about preparing the rice for yourself, and you don't have to order it. It'll be taken care of. So you can just come over to the front table when we have our lab, and you can just scoop up the rice that you like. And then when I'm cooking, I'll talk to you about sauces, because I haven't set out the sauces yet. Thank you for joining me for part 1. When you come back, I'll be cooking you some delicious stir fry. Okay, we're making one more stir fry, and this is for the rest of my family. And so I'm going to spread out the meat in the pan. If the foil spatters, just make sure that you turn the burner down so you don't get burned. And now I'm going to take my contaminated dishes to the sink so they're out of the way, and my dish steward is washing for me. And we'll let our meat sit here for a moment, and I'll come back to you in just a moment. We're back now, and you'll notice I'm using a different spoon than I did last time, and the reason for that is that I just want to make sure that every time I use a fresh spoon so that we've got fresh ingredients. And I cleaned out the pan in between times because I said that the sauce I used last time had sugar in it, and the sugar will make everything stick, and I don't want anything to burn before it's done. And so I did need to wipe out my pan. You don't have to wash it because it's hard. When you wash a hot pan, you can warp it. You can cause the bottom to actually be curved. And so you can take a big wad of paper towels and wipe it out, making sure that there's no possible way your hands could get burnt. If you're not sure how to do that, just have me show you so that you don't get hurt doing that, because I certainly don't want you to get burnt. But it's very easy to do, and that takes out most of the remainder. You never put it in the pan that way. Excuse me, I said that wrong. You never put it in the cupboard that way, but from one stir fry to another, it's fine. So again, I'm watching my meat to make sure that all the pink goes away and that it doesn't get overdone. Stir fries can be done in about 1,000 different ways, and so it just depends on what you want to put in your stir fry. You'll have to decide what veggies you want to cook with, what meat, and just decide what you like the best. And so in your group, as you're thinking about how you're going to do your lab plan, ask yourself, what do we like the best? And some people in your group may like one thing, and some people may like another. And so you may decide that you're going to do 2 batches. I wouldn't recommend more than that, really, because it just gets too confusing for a lab situation. At home, it's easier because you have lots of time, but at school, our time is really constrained. I don't see any more pink on my meat, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in a separate bowl. And then I just use the pan lid to keep it warm. and that will help it to finish cooking if it needs to. And now my pan already has oil in it, so the ingredients that need to actually I think I'll put a tiny bit of oil in. My ingredients that need to have the flavor released with cooking just with oil are my garlic and my ginger. So I'm going to go ahead and throw those in, but just for like 30 seconds because I don't want to burn them. And I want to keep them moving in the pan as soon as I get them in there. And if you were here, you'd be able to smell it throughout the room because it's so fragrant. And then as I decide what I'm going to put in my pan next, I scan what the vegetables I cut. And of the ones I've cut, if I had onions, I'd add those right now. I chose not to do onions. And so the next thing I would add is carrots. Carrots are very dense and they take a while to cook. And so I can add carrots. And I'll cook them for about 2 minutes before I add another ingredient because they're going to take about 5 minutes altogether to cook. And if I cooked everything all at the same time, what would happen is that some of the ingredients, like our bok choy, it would be done already. I mean, it would be done like right now, and the carrots would still be hard as a rock. And so one of the ways you control that is by cutting like the carrots really thin so they cook quicker. But still, some of the things just cook really fast. And so you just have to cook some of them longer than others. And so if you're writing down the order of how you cook things, carrots are dense and you cook them longer. Also, if you have celery, it takes longer too. And then if you can add a little bit of liquid if you want, and that will help. You could use broth for this. You could use your pineapple juice, whatever sounds good to you. I'm going to add my asparagus right now too because asparagus is at least my stalks. I don't think I'll add the heads of asparagus, but the stalks are tougher, so I think that will be fine. And you just keep stirring because now our pan's going to be on high because we are doing stir fry, and so you just keep stirring your ingredients around. I got a pea pod in there by mistake, and pea pods cook really fast, so I took that out. And what you'll notice as you're cooking some of the green vegetables is that the color becomes crazy vibrant. They're so beautiful. Like the asparagus is turning gorgeous green. Okay, our carrots have probably been in there about 2 minutes, so now I'm going to go ahead and add my broccoli and my peppers. They cook all about the same amount of time, so they're going in there. And you notice that when I cut up my vegetables, I put them all in separate piles so that I didn't get them mixed up together. As soon as I get them in there, I stir it a bit, and then let's see what else needs to go in here. I think my mushrooms would take about the same amount of time, so they're going in there. This is when your mise en place really comes in handy. You'll be so glad that you got all your ingredients cut up and all ready to go into the pan. Because you can't be cutting up while you're trying to get your stuff in the pan. And then if my pan gets too dry, all you need to do is just add a little bit more of the pineapple juice, or you can add water, or chicken broth. And you'll notice it just keeps getting prettier and prettier. The color is vibrant. The broccoli is turning bright green. It's time to add the asparagus spears now, the heads of them. They take a little bit less time to cook. And then we're going to go ahead and add our pea pods. We can go ahead and add them. And one thing I didn't have is sprouts. Bean sprouts taste so good in stir fry. So that might be something you think about putting too, if you like bean sprouts. Our bok choy has a little bit thicker of a stem than our napa does, so it goes in, and it will start to wilt. So even though everything was really bulky, you'll just start to get smaller and smaller as it cooks down. And time for our napa, or savoy. And then next is going to be our spinach. So the nice thing for you is that you've got all those people in your kitchen who can be, one person can be stirring the whole time while other people are throwing things in. And so your executive chef should be guiding all of this, letting you know what goes in next. And if they're not sure, come get me and we'll talk about it. And they can write down like the order of ingredients so you don't forget. Okay, we're almost ready, so it's time for spinach. And I dropped a piece of spinach on the floor. We're not doing the 3-second rule or the 5-second rule. We are just going to pick it up when we get a chance to pick it up. Or have our dish steward pick it up because we know they're not picky. The nice thing with these saute pans is that they've got a handle that's nice and long so that you can hold on to it the whole time while you're stirring so the pan doesn't move. Also, it's got a handle on the other side to help pick it up when you're done. Okay, it's almost done, so we're going to throw in our noodles. So that they can start to heat up. And our yoshidas. Now the yoshidas again is going to send out lots of liquid, so don't worry about that. We can strain it. Use a slotted spoon to get this out of here if we need to. And yoshidas needs to be shaken, so we'll shake it a little bit. And I will put more on it when I serve it. And the color is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And it is like 30 seconds from being done, so we toss our meat back in. Once your stir fry is all the way done, you want to take it off the burner so it'll still continue to cook a little bit, but if you leave it on the burner with it off, it'll be cooking faster. So that's how you make stir fry. I hope that you enjoy eating it and making it as much as I enjoy preparing it for you today. So that's what my stir fry looks like, and I hope that you will enjoy cooking it in class. I will see you in class in just a minute. Welcome back to the kitchen. We're going to be making stir fry now, and you'll notice that I've washed all sorts of beautiful vegetables and we're ready to cook them. And so they're cut into small pieces based on how long I will be stir frying them. And the first stir fry, first I guess I want to talk to you about the different kinds of protein that you can make or use for your stir fry. First you could choose tofu if you want. And if you haven't seen tofu before, tofu is a soybean protein and it comes in a package that's square in the vegetable department of the grocery store. And you'll find all of the soybean proteins together. And so if you want to use tofu, you can cut it into squares and then fry it with quite a bit of oil, like probably 2 tablespoons, and that would be delicious if you like tofu. If you prefer beef, we can buy you thin strips of beef, and we can stir fry those. If you decide to stir fry beef, it's all you do is you throw it in the pan with about a tablespoon of oil, and the pan is really warm, like probably medium-high. And as soon as that oil gets hot, you carefully put your meat in the oil to cook. One side 30 seconds, the other side of the meat 30 seconds, and get it out of the pan. You don't even want the meat to all the way turn brown because it will continue cooking after it gets out of the pan. And we want to make sure that it's not tough. The longer it cooks, the tougher it gets. And so just barely cooked because it will go back in the pan. And then the final protein that we offer is chicken. And if you decide you want chicken, then we'll be buying chicken tenders, which are pieces that are about 1/3 of the size of a chicken breast. And if you get those, then one of the things I will suggest, instead of using a knife to cut your chicken, which people are used to using a knife, kitchen scissors work really well. And when you use kitchen scissors, you can just pick up the piece of meat and cut it, so you don't have to dirty a cutting board and worry so much about cross-contamination, because the only things that are getting dirty are the dish of chicken, your hands, and the scissors, and so you won't have to worry about sanitizing your cutting board. So you just pick up your chicken like this, and you're going to just cut the chicken very easily. And you'll notice that my chicken is in a pie plate. If your chicken comes to you and it's partially frozen, you're going to put it in a pie plate and put it in the microwave on defrost. You'll have a pound of meat, and so if it's all the way frozen, you'll defrost it for a pound of meat for the amount of time it says on your microwave. Your microwave will have a defrost for 1 pound of meat. We need to talk now about the pan that you'll use to stir fry. We're using a sauté pan. A sauté pan is a pan that looks like a frying pan, but it's larger and it has higher sides. We're using this type of pan because the food will have a lot of room to move around, and we'll be able to, when we stir it, it's not going to go flying out of our frying pan. If you use the regular frying pan in your kitchen, frying pans have shorter sides, and as you stir your food, the odds are it will go out of your pan. If you prefer to use a electric frying pan like I used for my first demonstration, you're welcome to use those, and they're stored underneath the demonstration table mirror. So the oil that I'm going to be cooking with today is olive oil, and so olive oil is a great oil because it's heart healthy, and it will be great for us. And so if you've ever watched Rachel Ray, she talks about EVOO, that's what we're using. And for olive oil, you use about a tablespoon of olive oil for your meat, and pretty much if you just do a quick pour, you're going to get a tablespoon, and then you can just swirl it around in your pan. If you feel like you got too much, then just go over to the sink and just dump the rest down the drain, but not in your dishwater. And it's okay if it doesn't cover the entire bottom of the pan. The tools that I will be using in the pan, keep in mind, just like when I did my last demonstration, that we talked about there's different types of tools that you use in different pans. And this is a non-stick pan, and so it's essential that I do not use metal tools or I will ruin my pan. So I need to use my melamine spoon or my wooden spoon. And I prefer the melamine spoon. It's just a personal preference. You can use whichever thing you like. And so that's what I'll be using. My pan's starting to get warm. It's on medium-high. And I'm going to go ahead and take my meat. By the way, my chicken that I did cut up is cut into pretty tiny pieces. The smaller it is, the quicker it will cook. And the first stir fry that I'm making is a favorite of my son's, son Daniel. He calls it his own special stir fry. And he loves it with small pieces of chicken. And so I will make an individual portion for him. His has about a third of a pound of chicken in it. And stir fry, lots of times you think that it's going to be just something that's stirred continually. But really, if you want your meat to be browned, you need to spread the meat out in the pan and then just let it sit there for about a minute or two, and so it can brown. Because if you keep stirring it around, it will stay white, and that's not very appealing. Most people don't want pure white meat. You want it so it has some color. So now I stirred it, and I'm just going to leave it alone. And again, we're worried always about cross-contamination. So my spoon has touched the meat. I want to just